most products in the world, they follow this really simple rule. If you've got the money, you can buy the thing. Transaction over.
Yeah, that's pretty much market basics, right? More cash usually means you get quicker, easier access to whatever fancy thing you want.
But today, we're doing a deep dive into this one luxury item where that fundamental rule just completely falls apart.
Right.
Where having, a huge bank balance isn't actually enough to guarantee you can buy it.
And what's so interesting here, it's counterintuitive, really, is we're not talking about some one-off Picasso or a famous diamond. We're actually talking about a handbag, the Hermès Birkin.
Exactly, the Hermès Birkin. And buying one isn't just, a luxury purchase. The sources are calling it an initiation.
Initiation is absolutely the right word. I mean, it signals that the whole deal is less about handing over money and much more about getting accepted into this very carefully managed, exclusive world that Hermès completely dictates.
So our mission today is really to dig into how this piece of leather essentially became this mythical asset. We'll look at the almost accidental origin story, the intense human labor behind why it's so scarce, and then the financial data, which is frankly pretty shocking, positioning the Birkin as a real asset. One that, believe it or not, has beaten some very traditional investments.
Okay, let's unpack that. Starting with that chance meeting that really kicked off the whole legend. Okay, picture it. It's 1983, a flight, Paris to Latin, and you have Jane Birkin, the actress, the singer, sitting right next to Jean-Louis Dumas, who was the CEO of Hermès back then. Just a great bit of luxury history, isn't it? Total coincidence. But the story, it goes from this kind of charming meeting straight into, chaos.
Your chaos, yeah. Birkin's trying to jam her wicker basket bag, that was her signature thing, into the overhead bin, and boom, everything spills out all over the floor. Scripts, notebooks, baby bottles. Her life, basically.
And she apparently complained to Dumas, saying she just couldn't find a weekend bag that was elegant, but also practical enough to hold everything without disaster striking.
Right. And here's where Dumas is just brilliant. He doesn't just nod along. He grabs an air sickness bag, an actual air sickness bag, and starts sketching right then and there this design for a roomy, structured leather bag, and he promises her on the spot, Hermès will make this for you, and we'll call it the Birkin. And that little sketch, that became the very first prototype. Okay, and this is where the whole idea of value gets really, really interesting. That first bag, the one Jane Birkin used constantly for years, apparently was pretty beat up, had charity stickers all over it, properly lived in. Well, that exact worn-out prototype sold in 2025 for over $10 million.
$10 million for a used handbag.
It just shows.
It wasn't about pristine condition at all, was it? It was purely about the provenance. That sale basically cemented the idea that the Birkin's value comes from its story, its history, that undeniable link to its origin. It wasn't just a product from day one, it was kind of an artifact.
So Hermès definitely built this cult around that amazing origin story.
Mm-hmm.
But, to keep that level of extreme exclusivity going for decades, you need more than just a good story. You need a ritual around how it's made.
Oh, they are absolute masters at managing scarcity, deliberately. The way they limit production guarantees that demand always outpaces supply. It turns the whole act of waiting into this intense kind of social desire. And the key rule they stick to is absolute. Every single Birkin bag is handmade in France, from start to finish, by one single artisan.
Yeah, and that right there is the core bottleneck on how many they can make. We're talking 40 hours of work minimum, just for one bag, no assembly lines, no machines for the main construction, no shortcuts. It just ensures that the output stays incredibly limited no matter how much global demand explodes.
Okay, that physical limit makes sense for why the price starts, north of 10 grand. But it doesn't quite explain that paradox we started with, the money isn't enough problem. Right, and this gets us into what some people call the Birkin game, or that initiation process we mentioned. You can't just buy one. It's presented as an offer from the house, and it's managed entirely through a specific sales associate, the SA.
Hold on, so if I just walk into the flagship store in Paris with, say, $50,000 cash, I can't just ask for one. What does this game actually involve?
Well, no, you can't just ask. It demands a significant demonstrated purchase history before you're even potentially considered. You essentially have to become a known, loyal Hermès client first, buying other things, their jewelry, scarves, maybe home goods.
Ah, I see.
This spending history, sometimes called the pre-spend, it proves to Hermès that you appreciate the whole brand, not just chasing the one super hyped bag.
Okay, so it's like an investment in the relationship before you even get the chance to invest in the actual bag itself.
Precisely. You're showing dedication. And even then, when you finally get an offer, if you do, you usually don't get to pick the exact leather or the color or the size you dreamed of. You're offered a Birkin based on what the house decides to allocate, and typically you accept it gratefully. It filters the customer base down to only the truly initiated, you see, elevating the bag from just a product to this highly anticipated reward.
And I guess once you're inside that system, you start learning that, well, not all rewards are equal, right? There's this whole hierarchy of leather that affects the value and how desirable it is.
Absolutely. If you look at let's call them the standard leathers, you have the big favorites. Togo is popular. It's got that fine grain. It's durable, holds its shape really well. Then there's Clemence, which is softer, a bit heavier, gets that lovely slouchy look over time.
And Epsom, right. That's the embossed one. Very structured, almost indestructible. So even these are super sought after, but the value just skyrockets when you get into the exotic leathers.
Yeah, that's where you hit sort of mythic rarity levels. Ostrich is one step up silky, with the distinctive dots. But the absolute top tier are the crocodile skins, Niloticus and Porosus. Known for flawless scales, the quality control there is apparently just intense. Getting perfect, large enough skins is incredibly difficult.
And we definitely have to talk about Himalaya.
Yes. It's really seen as the absolute pinnacle. It's made from Niloticus crocodile, but it's dyed using this incredibly difficult, painstaking process to look like the snowy peaks of the Himalayas, that white to gray gradient.
Wow.
Hermes only makes a tiny number each year. It's limited by both the sheer craftsmanship involved and just finding enough perfect skins that can take the dye process correctly.
And the price obviously reflects that. We saw an example mention one selling for $500,000.
$500,000.
This really moved beyond just fashion at that point, hasn't it? It's fully into fine art territory. Which brings us neatly to the financial side of things.
And this is where the numbers get, pretty astonishing. We're not just talking about collectors hoping their bags might hold their value. We're talking about verifiable, almost investment-grade appreciation in a hard asset.
The data cited shows that from 1984, so right near the beginning, all the way up to 2015, Birkin bags appreciated, on average, 14% per year.
14% annual appreciation, consistently for over 3 decades. Now, that rate was significantly faster and actually more stable than both physical gold and the S&P 500 index during that exact same period.
Okay, wait. Faster than gold in the stock market.
Yeah, that level of sustained return is remarkable for any asset class, let alone something you might think of as just a luxury good.
How does a handbag even do that? I mean, the S&P 500 is driven by huge economic forces, company profits. What keeps a bag growing at 14% year after year?
Well, it seems to be this perfect storm of engineered scarcity meeting a very real, very liquid secondary market. Hermes keeps that primary supply so incredibly tight that the initial retail price effectively becomes the absolute floor value. Then you have auction houses, specialist resellers. The secondary market, they compete intensely for the limited number of bags out there. That competition constantly pushes the market value above the original price. And that established secondary market, it guarantees liquidity.
And this isn't just theoretical paper wealth locked away either.
Yeah.
The sources confirm you can actually use a Birkin as collateral to get serious loans.
That's right. For a lender to accept something as collateral, they need confidence in its stable, reliable value. They can look at years of auction results from places like Christie's or Heritage Auctions. Those records prove that a well-maintained Birkin can fetch a predictable, high price, making it a surprisingly reliable store of value. Good collateral.
So Hermes didn't just create a really popular accessory. They basically engineered a whole new asset class where that exclusivity directly translates into reliable liquidity.
And, of course, that financial clout just feeds back into the cultural status, which then reinforces the myth, which drives demand. It's this perfect, self-sustaining cycle of power.
You really see the Birkin as performance art signifying power. It pops up constantly in these viral moments online.
Definitely. Whether it's the musician Rima gifting one to a fan right on stage that went instantly global, right? Or you see someone like Kylie Jenner just casually balancing her bag, which happens to be worth maybe $300,000 at some party. The bag itself becomes the story, the statement that you've arrived.
And it's truly global, isn't it? The meaning seems consistent whether you're in Hollywood or, say, Mumbai. We see Bollywood figures mentioned, Sonam Kapoor, Janvi, Shilpa. They're all part of this.
Yeah.
The bag seems to cut across local fashion trends.
It absolutely signals you've made it, and crucially, you understand the unspoken rules of the world's most exclusive club. It really suggests the bag isn't ultimately about the leather or the buckle or the stitching, is it? It's fundamentally about a belief system.
It's about faith, really. A belief system carefully constructed and maintained, just embodied in leather. It represents a kind of power that doesn't need to shout. It just whispers, But only to the select few who can handle the price tag, sure. But maybe more importantly, who can successfully navigate that whole initiation process just to get the offer. So I think the core lesson for us today is pretty clear. If a company can manage to perfectly control supply, build an absolutely iconic, unshakable story around it, and then generate genuine worldwide financial belief in its value, then yes, even a handbag can actually outperform traditional safe havens like gold. It really forces you to reconsider what counts as a reliable asset, doesn't it? It demonstrates that in certain very specific markets, things like acceptance, initiation, belonging, they can be much more valuable currencies than just cold, hard cash. Which does leave us with a rather interesting question, maybe something for you to think about later today. If this model of controlled scarcity and required initiation works so incredibly well, what might be the next Birkin waiting to emerge in today's market? What other product out there relies more on proving you belong than just being able to afford it? Yeah, keep an eye out for those things you can't just easily buy off the shelf, even if you have the money. That's often where the really stable, maybe unexpected value is hiding.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.